Okay, so right now I'm going to be talking about Yuri on Ice. And a lot of people are super hyped for this show, with good reason. Yuri on Ice is a good show. It's fun. It's got some good characters. It's got a refreshing take on, the rom-com genre. It's fun times for everyone to behold. But I'm not as hyped for this show as I think most people are. And it's not something that I think I see a lot of people talking about in terms of what I'm not as hyped about this show. Basically, I get really bored with this show in the middle half. And I never saw anybody sharing my opinion. I'm sure someone did, because someone always does. But for me, I'm a very analytical, critical person. Whatever. This isn't new. A lot of people are. And a lot of people who are will say that they also like the show and that I'm crazy. But for me personally, in terms of my taste, is that I feel like the middle portion of Yuri on Ice is very repetitive. And I mean repetitive in terms of how the episode is structured. And this is kind of a problem that sports anime that has to do with like a game related sport kind of gets somewhat of a pass on, simply because no game is ever the same. No game is ever the same amount of plays. But with a performance based sports anime, so to speak, you kind of run into a problem. Especially if the performance is the same. In which case, Yuri on Ice, every skater has two performances. And every performance is kind of repeated every other episode. And so there's this long stretch in the middle of the show where it's just, free program, short program, free program, short program. And I got really bored. I'm not gonna lie. Because every episode is structured exactly the same. You have all the people who are going to be performing that day. They all perform. They all give these inner monologues during the performance. They might show a few, snippets of what they're talking about and whatnot. And then in between performances, or sometimes during performances, they're cutting back to what's going on backstage. Usually Yuri is having some kind of problem, usually having to do with his confidence. Either he has too much, he has too little, he's freaking out about something, and it's cutting back between that. Victor is usually trying to figure out what he can do to help. And then it all culminates with Yuri doing his whatever program, either free or short program, and he gives an inner monologue, and then he kind of figures out everything, or at least what he was dealing with in that particular episode during his monologue. And then the episode's over. Usually it has some kind of cute Victor and Yuri moment everyone freaks out about, and that's all cute. And then it ends. And then, we do it again next week. And to be perfectly honest, I just got really bored with it. I mean, the first time that happened, I think, was in episode 3. You had Yurio versus Yuri. That was exciting. That was the first time we had gotten a kind of performance episode. So everyone was excited. I was excited. And then episode 4, I'm pretty sure, didn't have performance. And, let me just go on Wikipedia. If you can just give me a moment. I'm listening to Hunter x Hunter music. I don't think you can hear it, but at least I hope you can't, because then you can't hear me. Okay, so I'm looking at the episode list on Wikipedia, which of course is always true facts. And yeah, episode 1 and 2 were structurally different, so to speak, at least as far as back I can remember. I have not rewatched the show. I've just been watching it weekly, so I might be kind of wrong here. This is like 12 weeks back, but that I saw it. Yeah, episode 3 was the first performance episode we got. Episode 4, from what I'm skimming here, is different. It is not a performance episode, so it is different. Episode 5 is a performance episode. Episode 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 11. They're all performance episodes, and they all just alternate between performances that we've already seen at this point. And at that point, I get kind of bored. I think the first time we got to see Yuri skate to, Yuri on Ice, the song, that was an interesting moment, because we hadn't seen him do that performance yet. But after the first time we saw it, we've already seen it. So all of the punch is gone. The only thing that we have during these episodes is the inner monologue that goes on during the skating. And it's like, I'm not as invested in that as I would like to be. I want to see something new and different. You know, when a performance, the only thing that's different is maybe a few individual cuts that are being interchanged throughout the performance, and then it's just more dialogue and more monologue going on. I get bored. I do. And that's how I felt between, again, episode kind of 5 through, not even 5. Yeah, 5 through 9. I mean, episode 10, everyone freaked out about that because it was like the whole rain thing, which was exciting, but I was more excited at the fact that I did not know where the episode was going, because it wasn't a performance episode. For once, after so many weeks of just nothing but performance episode after performance episode, I was like, finally, I'm getting an episode that's not a performance. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to be structured. And I'm not going to say that was the best structured episode I've ever seen. It was kind of jerky in how it, went back and forth between Yurio and then Yuri and Victor. But again, everyone freaks out because of the rain things. That's fine. But again, I was more excited about the fact that I was getting an episode that was structured differently. And I was like, that's great, So, and then episode 11 went right back to performance, which all these performances I had seen, I think the only person I hadn't seen was, I don't know how to pronounce his name, that Odebek guy, the guy who's friends with Yurio. That guy. I think he was the only new performance that we saw, which was, okay, I got to see a new performance. He wasn't like a main character, so I wasn't like as excited about seeing a new performance from him as I would seeing a new performance from Yuri or from Yurio or something like that. So, that's just me personally. I get very attached to main characters because they're the people that usually get the satisfying or hopefully satisfying amount of development. But yeah, that's just one thing that really kind of irked me about Yuri on Ice, in terms that I don't see people talking about, because everyone's talking about Yuri and Victor, which again is fine. I can understand why everyone likes to talk about that. It's all very exciting and refreshing. But for me, who's a total package kind of person, and it's not like I don't like anime for isolated reasons. I do like certain animes for isolated reasons, but they will never be my favorite for an isolated reason. They will never be something that I hail as the anime of the season or the anime of the year or something like that. Simply because, and this is just me personally. Of course, the general consensus, this will probably be one of the top anime of the year. It already is. I think on Mal, it has, I think it's close to a 9, or it's at least an 8.5 at least. I'm not sure, but it's way up there. I think it's graded a little higher than it needs to be. I haven't seen the last episode. This is right before the last episode airs. If you're watching this from the future, I have not seen episode 12, so it might kick it up to, a 9 out of 10. But for right now, the show is kind of comfortably laying at a high 7 to a low 8 for me. And I know that sounds like terrible to most people, but that's high above average. Because for me, an average show is a 5. If it does all the things it's supposed to do, I'm somewhat entertained. It's like, it gets all the checks and balances done, and it's not offensive. It's not, I don't feel like my afternoon or my week or however long it takes me to watch it was wasted watching that show. It's not great. It's not something world-changing or shattering for me. It's just something that I don't feel like I wasted my time watching. That's an average show. Something that's a little bit above average is a 6. Something that I feel like is getting into the good realm is a 7. Something that's in the good realm, more close to a great, is an 8 for me. A 9 is just great. A 10 is a masterpiece for me. I don't have a lot of masterpieces in my anime roster. I have seen a lot of anime, not as much as most people who claim they've seen a lot of anime. I'm kind of in the middle of how much anime I've watched compared to people who are anime connoisseurs and people who are just casual viewers. I'm more kind of in the middle. There are a lot of the really popular shows that I haven't seen, but I feel like I've seen because no one will shut up about them. And I'm moving around in my bed, so yeah, okay. But yeah, I really don't feel like Yuri on Ice really used what all of its pieces. I feel like that, and I don't even really know how I would suggest that you fix it, because it's a performance sports anime, and it's realistic to the fact that, you know, there is a free program and a short program. I'm not I don't know really anything about ice skating, how it works or anything like that, so I'm not stating any of this as true facts. It's just from what I've been able to gather, which is not a lot, but this is how it goes. They have a free program or a short program, and they repeat it, which is fine for realism, but there is that line that you have to walk when telling a story so that it doesn't get how Yuri on Ice got, which is repetitive. And I feel like that they could have done something to spice it up. Because, again, we've seen all these after we've seen them once, we've seen all the performances. And after I've seen them once, I want something else. And if you're not going to give me something else, then give me the same thing, but mixed up enough so that it feels new. And if all you're going to do is change the inner monologue, I don't feel like that's new enough. Because the inner monologues aren't as moving and aren't as game-changing to make it feel different, you know? So, I kind of feel like Yuri on Ice really dropped the ball in the middle half. I wasn't as engaged in the middle half. I didn't get engaged until, I think, episode 10 again. Just because something big happened. It was a non-performance episode. I didn't know what was going to be happening. So I was more on the edge of my seat in episode 10. And then episode 11 was kind of disappointing for me, especially after coming off of episode 10. Because episode 10 was so, like, I have no clue what's going to happen. Oh my gosh, like, what's going on? And then episode 11 is like, oh, we're just going to go back to performances, and it's going to be the same thing. Everyone has an inner monologue. Everyone has this. Everyone has that. And again, JJ, he had his little downfall, which I expected to happen, to be perfectly honest. I know it took some people by surprise. It didn't take me by surprise, to be perfectly honest. But, yeah, so I really hope episode 12 is good, and it's because I know it's going to be another performance show, but it takes so long to get through all of them. That's the entire episode. So I really hope episode 12 kind of cuts all that and makes sure that it still gets to the good stuff, which is the character relations, you know? And I really hope that it does that some justice. I mean, there are other things that I feel like Yuri on Ice is not as good as than everyone else says, but that's maybe for another video. I feel like this is the major problem for me that keeps me from really just loving this show to bits and pieces like many other people do. And again, I feel like that everyone really just kind of zeroes in on Yuri and Victor, and everything else is kind of like secondary. And I don't even think many people realize that's what they're doing, but it is what they're doing. And yeah, no one's gonna like hearing that, and whatever. I kind of don't care, but that's just me. And while I like this show, again, it is above average for me. It is high above average. It's in the great tier for me. It's just it's not that 10 out of 10 show that I think everyone says it is. It's not something that I would really rewatch a ton of times. I'd probably rewatch the first 2 episodes, episode 3, and then probably episode 10 to be because episode 5 through 9 and then 11 is just, it's the same thing that I've seen over and over again, and I get bored. And if all they're offering me is monologues that are changed, I get bored, and especially when it takes up the entire episode. So again, I hope episode 12, even though it is going to be a performance episode, I hope it does something different, is what I'm saying. That it cuts down the performances, that we don't see all of them all over again, though I'm pretty sure we are, because it's the last hoo-ha of the show. But yeah, I mean, I can't get as hyped when I already know what's gonna happen. I already know the 95% of the episode is just gonna be performances that I've already seen. And I'll probably do a video eventually. Well, I shouldn't say I probably will, but if I decide to do more of these, then I probably will talk about, and I said probably again, I want to talk about kind of just stigmas, I suppose, in sports anime. I have not seen tons of sports anime, so I have to do a little bit of research and do a little bit of watching. But it's something that I'm noticing a lot in a lot of sports anime. I know All Out came out this season or last season? No, this season. It came out this season. And I really liked the first episode. First episode was good. I didn't like it enough for me to just feel a need to keep watching the show. Up to this point I've only seen episode 1. I've seen some things on Tumblr about where it's going, and it seems like it's something that I'm not going to watch. That's why I dropped Days, because it kind of had that problem that a lot of sports anime has with. Basically, I feel like the central relationships in sports anime that I sign up for in episode 1, with All Out, for example, there's the short protagonist and the really tall blonde guy, who's like, he's really tall, muscular, but he has like this really cute, girly kind of baby face, and it's really funny. But I would love to see a show about those two kind of going through rugby and that being the focus. I'm pretty sure that's not how it is, though. From what I can see on Tumblr, it's another sports anime where there's like tons of characters and tons of, intertwining relationships, and none of them are probably going to be developed to the point where I feel satisfied, which bugs me. It bugs the crap out of me. And that's something that I've seen in a lot of sports anime, is that they set up a central relationship, a central friendship, a central whatever in the first episode, and like maybe for the first 3 episodes they focus on that, and then after that it's all these complex character maps of just different relationships all over the place. And some of them are interesting, but they're never going to get the amount of development that they should for me to care as much as I think the show wants me to. And that's something that Yuri on Ice does pretty well, is that even though it has a wide character roster, I feel like it does do justice of focusing on, Yuri and Victor, and then focusing on Yurio and his struggles. I feel like it kind of dropped Yurio for a little too long, in my opinion. That just might be because I really like his character, and I was sad that he left in episode 3. I was kind of hoping it would be like Victor coaches both of them, and it's kind of like that funny, because Yuri and Yurio have a funny dynamic that isn't really explored anymore after episode 3, because they're like never together at all, and that is depressing to me, because it was really funny to see Yuri, Yurio, and Victor together in the beginning of the series, and seeing all 3 of them play off of each other. I thought that was really funny. That's what really sold me on wanting to see the rest of the show after the obligatory 3-episode test. But yeah. So I kind of went off on a little bit of ramble about sports anime in general for a little bit, but I feel like that Yuri on Ice did do the whole relationship focusing on the central relationship that you sign up for kind of thing well, that most sports anime just kind of drop the ball on. And not that Yuri on Ice doesn't have other relationships that it has. Yuri has other friends, Victor has other friends, but it keeps the focus on what I signed up for in episode 1 and episode 2 is. So it did that. I just wish it would have given me more variety in its episodes. And again, I know that it's a performance-based skating episode and skating show, and they want to show all the performances, but I feel like they sacrificed a lot of the compelling narrative that they could have had and how they told it by sticking to the nubs and making sure that they showed every performance in real time, every episode, the same thing that we've seen over and over again. It's just repetitive. And that's what kind of took it down from, I feel like it would have been an 8 out of 10 probably, if not for the fact that it was so repetitive. So now it's more of a 7 for me, because it was such a long stretch too. Episode 5 through 9, such a long, and it's only a 12 episode anime. And then episode 11, and then episode 12 again. That's over half of the anime is the same episode structure. This basically the same episode, just kind of alternated between free and short program. And yeah, that just doesn't cover it for me, to be perfectly honest. So good show, good characters, repetitive episode structure.